Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at the Saturday NBA slate on Draftkings, and you could also use this for really any DFS site. A lot of the stuff we're going to get into here for you to prepare and just really reduce your research time, right? That's what it's all about. If this is your first time to the channel, my name is Sal. Welcome. What I've been doing for the majority of the season is NFL, but the last week or two I've been doing some NBA. And honestly, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I like NBA. I think I like it more than NFL, maybe because it's just daily and you get that hustle, right? You can do it every single day. I like to stay up late at night, kind of put these templates together for you guys, and then throughout the day, the injury news is, yes, it's one rattling, but it also gives lots of edges for the people who, especially if you're playing at lower stakes. There's a lot of guys who just won't even look at the lineups. They won't even change them, let alone a couple minutes before and hours before, right? So I want to be able to give you guys some research, some tools to reduce your research time. Watch a quick little 20-minute video, and you guys are a lot more prepared for the slate. I spent a couple hours putting together some of this stuff, looking at some of the research early on, and then I'll do more throughout the day. So thank you if you're here. One thing I will say, though, is I'm in a little bit of a different room. You won't be able to tell because it's just going to be a cutout mini-me if this all works well. But I had to go to my campus because it's Saturday morning at 7 a.m., and rightfully so. My roommates, my friends who are visiting, they're all sleeping, right? They should be. But I can't make a video there, so I had to come on my campus. And what does that translate to? It translates to every single building being closed. The only one that I actually have access to because I work here. I had to come in and try and prop up a quick studio. Even the libraries are closed at Penn State on the weekends. Like, what the hell is going on with Penn State? I don't get it. You pay thousands of dollars a year, and you can't even study at the library on the weekends. 2 of the days where you actually have free time. Makes no sense to me. Kind of, when you combine that with it being negative degrees out, very rough start to the morning. But we're here now. We're going to make this video, potentially a few other ones while I'm here. So yeah. Basically what that was is just a plug to say that I love doing what I'm doing, and if you could hit that like button, if you appreciate my work, if this is your first time here and you just at any point during the video appreciate it, please hit that like button. And besides that, consider subscribing throughout if you haven't already to the returning subscribers. Love you guys so much. If you're not in the Facebook group yet, get in there. We're talking daily, by the minute, straight slate strategies and just other things in group messages on Facebook as well. So yeah, let's jump into the slate. There was a 2-minute little plug for you guys. So we got a 4-game slate, right? And I'll go to all players right here. And the 4-game slates, to me, as somebody who creates content, they're easy. They're easier to digest, and not in terms of winning, just easier to digest, get information out there. But they're also interesting in terms that the ownership is going to be higher on a lot of players just because there's only 8 teams playing compared to yesterday when we had 20. So you can get really good pivot spots because there's going to be some guys who are inevitably 50% or more owned potentially if they're in a great spot, which we have a few on this slate in great spots. So if we want to just look at pricing quickly before I get over into that spreadsheet, and I'm going to get there in like 1 second. Pricing on this slate, just at a glance, I think it's actually pretty good. I think we do have some underpriced guys that I'll get to, mainly because of injuries that we're also about to get to in 10 seconds. But pricing, yeah, for the most part, only 2 guys in that 10K range and only a couple really in the 9K range. So you could fit in a lot of guys depending on how you construct your lineup, a lot of upside guys, and there are the values, at least early on, there's some values and potentially more as the day goes on to look into. So with that said, drum roll please, let's get into this. So we're going to start with the NBA injuries and news for you guys on this Saturday, January 26th slate. So starting out right at the top, we have a lot of big name players that are iffy or going to be out. We already know that, or just some questions floating around their names. Number 1, Joel Embiid. He's going to be resting for rest. He's going to be resting for rest, right? He's just not going to be playing today. He's already ruled out. The Sixers have ruled out a multitude of guys. Joel Embiid, Wilson Chandler's also out there, another starter. And Jimmy Butler is having a wrist problem. He's going to see a specialist. It doesn't seem good. He's doubtful for today. I doubt he plays today. That's 3 Sixers that are out today. Potentially out if you say Butler's going to be out. I'm just going to say he's out. That's 3 Sixers that are out today. Those are 3 starters that are out today. That means that you're going to have 3 guys filling in for them that are going to automatically become value plays, automatically going to see minutes. The guys that this affects the most, number 1, all 3 of these guys being out affects a guy like Ben Simmons. His usage rate is going to jump up pretty decently, and I think I have his usage rate, what it does. I have it in the breakdown, the early interest later on. But his usage rate is going to jump. You have guys like at the power forward position, Mike Muscala for Wilson Chandler. He's going to be starting. You have Amir Johnson, who's one of the bottom tier defenders in the league. Just in terms of getting minutes, he's one of the guys who really shouldn't be getting any minutes. You have a guy like Kenneth Faried who comes in for the Rockets and has just been absolutely dominating in terms of signing like a 10-day contract. You got a guy like Amir Johnson who really is not even in the same league, as far as I know, as Kenneth Faried. So some value is going to be opening up in this slate. Nikola Jokic. So Jokic, the big thing with Jokic is Nikola Jokic. The big thing with him is that he was suspended last game. He's going to be back now. Yeah, the suspension's over. He's probable. Mason Plumlee's going to take his great value he was yesterday and be done. Jamal Murray, he got injured a couple times in last night's game in an ankle, and it didn't look good. He was in a walking boot after, but he was done in the walking boot by the time he left the arena. He told the media that he fully plans on playing tomorrow. He actually said, I will be playing tomorrow. So originally I thought this was going to be a good spot for Monte Morris, Morris is a point guard who sees a lot more utilization and minutes when a guy like Murray's out. Also Malik Beasley sees the same exact usage, and Gary Harris should see a little more ball handling duties. None of that will matter. It seems like Jamal Murray's going to play now. Will Barton. So this is something I'm going to put in here because I'm trying to predict times where on back-to-backs players are going to rest. We saw it happen with De'Aaron Fox earlier in the week. So Will Barton for Denver, they said that yesterday they wanted to limit his minutes, and I also believe they said that for Gary Harris. But for Will Barton, he ended up playing 26 minutes after he played a ton of minutes the day before, and they really want to kind of work him back in. So on the second day of a back-to-back, I could see a guy like Will Barton not getting his full run, maybe only 20 minutes, or potentially just resting, right, on the second day of a back-to-back, potentially just rest. You're playing a team that doesn't have Joel Embiid, probably doesn't have Jimmy Butler, doesn't have Wilson Chandler. Not that it's an easy win, but if you're going to pick a time to rest some players, especially guys that you want to get that rest, today seems like a good time in the second half of a back-to-back. So if he actually sits, I think that's going to affect Gary Harris, Malik Beasley. It's going to give them all a little bit of a bump, and then really minutes are just going to kind of be spread out elsewhere after that, potentially Monte Morris getting a little more involved. Kevin Huerter. So Kevin Huerter, he's probable with a neck injury. It seemed a little questionable. Fantasy Labs reported that he's now probable. So this is going to affect directly DeAndre Bembry, who's probably going to come out of the lineup. Kyrie Irving's the next person probable. He didn't play last game, mainly due to rest. They said there's some illness. I think it was just rest. Obviously, Terry Rozier now, not nearly as good of a player as he was a few days ago. Al Horford, he's back. He was resting. It's going to affect Aaron Baines. It's going to affect Daniel Theis. Al Horford getting back into this game against potentially probably Boogie Cousins. Maybe not be a great matchup for him, but he is going to be playing. Big one, maybe the biggest one to talk about outside of a guy like Embiid who's getting rest just because he's the most expensive player on the slate and he's resting, right, is Victor Oladipo. We saw that gruesome injury. He's probably done. I'm calling it a quad ligament tear or strain. So this is going to directly affect a lot of guys, and really minutes are going to go everywhere. We're going to get into that usage when we get to the early interests. But Tyreek Evans is a guy who, when Oladipo was out in the past, saw the biggest usage spike on the entire team, had the most usage. But he's also a guy who is just completely unreliable if you just slide over quickly to Tyreek Evans. And he's actually had the past month of the year a big bump in his improvement in terms of his points per minute. As you can see here, 15 minutes, 22 points, 15 minutes, 18 points. He's averaging around a point per minute over that span. But earlier in the year, he was just dreadful, right? When you see these 12 minutes, 15 minutes for less than 6 points, that's what you were getting out of him, especially with Oladipo out, which hurts you, right? So you can't really rely on that, but he is a guy who's going to see some impact. Aaron Holiday I put on here just because he might see a little more run, nothing crazy, maybe 10 minutes. Corey Joseph is a guy who should see some more run. He just came in last game, and I believe with Oladipo out, he actually saw 30 minutes in the game. He had 32 minutes in that game that didn't go to overtime, didn't blow out, so they had him in there for meaningful minutes at 4,100. Definitely somebody early on that's a value. And lastly, Aminu, we saw he had that dislocated finger or whatever. He stayed in that game. He's probable as well. So, yeah, that's the injuries. Big ones, I would say. I highlighted a few of them. I should also highlight here. And then, again, this was me doing this last night until 3 in the morning. It's 7 right now, so I don't think anything changed right there. So, yeah, Joel Embiid, big one. Victor Oladipo, the first game without him. How's the minutes going to go? If you can jump on that trend early and figure out where the things are going to go before the prices come up on some of these other guys, you're going to hit value big time. Will Barton, again, this is potential rest, meaning me. I'm saying that there's a potential chance at rest here. The coaches didn't say that. But based on what they've been indicating with Will Barton, I'm just saying there's a potential chance he sees some rest, and potentially Gary Harris as well. Jimmy Butler, track him. If he's doubtful, you're going to have guys like Corey Brewer seeing the court more. You're going to see Redick and Simmons get a lot more usage. So those are the injuries for right now. We're about 10 minutes into this video. I just want to pull one more plug into this. I'm sorry, guys, especially if it's your first time watching. But if at any time I've ever helped you with content, helped you even potentially win money. I had a guy reach out to me the other day and said he placed 10th in a big tournament, and that's awesome, right? But if I've ever helped you win money or anything like that, please, one, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please like the video. Let me know in the comments. I want to know if I'm helping you guys. That's my biggest thing. And lastly, I'll just plug this here. I'm working with this crappy old guy. He actually just got unplugged. He's probably going to die now. The thing barely stays on. Let me get down here and get him. It's a piece of crap. It's a 5-year-old laptop. And potentially to get out more video quality to you guys and just more content in general, being able to live stream in the mornings, these ones live, and then they're up all day. Get back on the live stream right before lock for like a half hour to an hour. And answer just Q&A questions for you guys, discuss the injuries, how I'm handling that, what you guys should do from an advice standpoint, not from a, oh, this is like, go and do this, right, just from what I would be doing. So in order to do that, I started to GoFundMe. If you guys don't feel obligated at all, but if I have helped you in the past, if I have helped you win money or anything like that, and you do want to somehow pay me back or somehow just say, thank you, Sal, whatever it might be, there is a GoFundMe down there. I'm making this terrible. I didn't want to even put this in here because I didn't know how to go about it, but a couple of the guys in the Facebook group said, you know what, just say it because I think a lot of people would like to help you. So I said it. Let's see if people want to help me. It's in the description below. So let's get back to this now. So Vegas, we have easier to digest, again, 4 games here. So a lot of high-scoring games, right? That's something to look at. And again, actually, right before we get into that, for some of the news on this slate, there's teams on back-to-backs, or Memphis and Denver. So how I kind of figured out that Will Barton might get some rest is just look at the teams on a back-to-back. Look at some of the players that are either 1, older players, or 2, they're players that seem like they're coming back from an injury. The team's been a little bit limited with them, which is exactly Will Barton. There's no real old players, maybe at least primary players that I'd be worried about in this situation. Jokic just was off the other night from a suspension. So I'm not too worried about anything like that. So for potential rest, you never really care about young players. They don't need that rest. They're going to get the run unless they're getting too much run like the Aaron Fox did earlier in the week. So just look for older players, people coming back off of injuries, and you can kind of project it throughout the day so you're not shocked an hour before tip-off and having the run for your head. You already have that kind of in mind. Some other guys, Marc Gasol, I said, for Memphis is a potential rest. Murray, just because of his injury, and Gary Harris, they've been limiting him back from his injury as well. So back to Vegas. Yeah, so 3 games over that 220. I usually look for lines around 220 or more to target or at least start to look at early on. We have one at 204, which is just a ridiculous over-under spread in today's NBA, and you will see why in a second based on their pace. But that game should stay close. Boston and Golden State is going to be the game that everybody targets here. 229.5, the highest over-under, a spread of 2. It's at Boston, so that gives Boston a huge advantage. This game has a lot of potential to go into overtime based on that close spread, and if this high-scoring game goes into overtime, you basically have to have the players in it. It scares me because both of these defenses are really good at a lot of the positions. It scares me because based on pricing and based on the way the slate looks as of right now, I'm not really getting to a lot of these guys, but I'm going to have to as the day goes on. Or maybe that's just my stand for this slate is stick with the guys that I like in cash, maybe take some dart throws in tournaments as well. Denver, Philly, 224.5 over-under. Without Joel Embiid in there, without half the starters in there for Philly, they're 9-point underdogs in Denver. Again, don't want to bank on blowout potential. And the reason you don't want to bank on blowout potential, and the Awesemo stream covered this greatly 2 nights ago, is 1, you have to make sure the blowout happens, right? That's never a given. That's actually really hard to predict, especially 9 points. It's not a big blowout. The team could be trailing by 9 going into the 4th and still be playing their starters. That's more than capable of coming back from, right? Even 10 points, but again, people see that number and they run away from it. 1, you have to get the blowout right. It has to actually blow out. 2, if you're fading certain players because of that, there's a great chance, like Russell Westbrook in the 3rd quarter already had a triple-double, that those players are still going to do well. And 3, if you're playing players because of the blowout, like shitty players, 1, they're shitty players, and 2, you still have to hope that they see enough minutes, they see the whole 4th quarter, it blows out early, and you have to hope that they're the ones seeing the court and getting the usage. There's just so much there that you can't predict. So in terms of trying to build your lineups around blowouts, I wouldn't personally do it because there's just so many factors going into it. And for the most part, if you're fading good players because of the blowout, it's usually negatively correlated unless it's a team like the Warriors that blow out teams here and there and they have 5 guys who can do it. Most teams, it's going to be through Russell Westbrook. It's going to be through James Harden, things like that. Over-unders, like I said, a lot of juicy over-unders on this slate, a lot of juicy projected point totals on this slate. We can see here the highest point total right now is Portland at 119.5. That's definitely interesting. For right now, let's jump over to pace. We see that there's some high-scoring offenses on this slate and also some pretty good potential games based on some spreads. So looking at pace here, we have the number one pace team in the entire league, the Atlanta Hawks, right? They've been continually giving up just loads of points because they're the highest paced team. They score quickly, the other team gets more possessions, and they're giving up more points because of that. A lot of their defensive efficiency ratings that we're going to get into, one, they're just bad on defense, but two, it's inflated because they're playing an extra 3 possessions per game than really like any other team in the league. So obviously teams are going to score more against you, but the defensive efficiency should usually factor that in. Still, they're still going to be giving up a lot of points. They're still going to be a little bit more tired down the stretch. Highest paced game on the slate due to Atlanta being the number one team. It kind of factors in there. And Portland in the top 20 doesn't pull it down too much. 104.4. That's pretty good, right? That's 2 possessions more per game than any of these other ones projected, at least. I have the game totals here so you can quickly look at it as well. You can screenshot this if that helps you. You can pause the video, whatever it is. I'm going to get this into file format for you guys eventually once I have the time to just sharpen it up, because right now it's deliver the content, prep all day for NBA, hang out with my girlfriend, hang out with my friends, deliver the content, prep all day. So I got to find a day in there, potentially tomorrow on a Sunday. I'll take that day off and regroup and try and get these spreadsheets a little bit nicer so I can actually give them to you guys. So 104.4, then we have 102.45 in that Golden State Boston game. So obviously, I mean, based on the totals, these being the 2 highest totals, it correlates with the pace. Sometimes it doesn't, but this one does. Those are the 2 games that you're going to want to target on this slate, right? And it's a 4-game slate, so I would advise just don't get cute, right? I think it does make sense, especially if there's value in this indie game with Victor Oladipo being out, to play a piece or 2 from there. But if you're going to end up game stacking, and you can very well do that, you don't have to do it, you can do that. I think it makes sense to game stack some of these faster-paced games with the higher totals, potentially the one that has the closest spread, just because there's more upside for overtime. Again, another high pace is a 101.9. It's over 100. If you're looking for anything over 100, and preferably in today's NBA, if you can get over 102, you're in that little top 10 percentage of games that have the best pace. 101.9 is pretty damn close to 102. So that's a good one to target as well. 99.4, not even 100. In today's NBA, that's rare to see. The average is higher than this. So this game not being there is definitely something to stay away from in terms of game stacking. Just in terms of long-term decisions, it's going to be more positive for your bankroll, your profits, if you target games on the slates that have these totals right here, these top totals, instead of the ones that have this total with this pace, right? This is supposed to say 102... I don't know what this is supposed to say. This is the Portland Atlanta game. This is supposed to say 104.4. There we go. So that's the pace. So now target offense is the one that I like the most, because once you wrap this all together, once you identify some games, and I put all the offenses on here because there's only 8, but once you identify some games that you like, you can start to see who has the best matchups in these games based on position. Then you can go into those positions on each team and see where the prices are, what they've been doing recently, what their numbers are on the year. You can get even deeper into it, and if it's a guy like a center, who, if we go right here, just for example, Philly's pretty bad against the center, just in overall points, and now you have Embiid out with Jokic, so this just seems like a home run spot. But if you look deeper into that, you can see, okay, how often does Jokic get blocked? And if he doesn't get blocked often, then you see and you dive into this number more, and they're not blocking players often, that's another great situation, right? It's just more attempts that are going to be successful rather than 2 blocks a game or whatever it could be. That could be 2 more attempts, which could be 1 to 2 more baskets, and that's just how it adds up if you break down into this little by little. So, I mean, if we look at some of these games with the higher totals that we want to look into and we want to target here, so this Atlanta-Portland game, if you look at it quickly, the thing that stands out is that Portland struggles against the small forward position. So if you want to go over to the small forward position, you just kind of quickly go through this. You click Atlanta. Let's go over to small forward. Bazemore's out. Herter is probable. Prince is also going to be probable. I think Prince will start at small forward. Herter probably shooting guard, but we'll see about that actually. I think Bembry will go back to the bench. Both of these guys manageable at $5,100 at $5,000. So that's definitely a place you can put down on your players of interest, things like that. Going through this, something that stands out is just, again, Atlanta, how bad they are just on defense at any position, defensive efficiency, defensive rating-wise. Part of that has to do with how they play so many possessions per game, but part of it is just because they have bad defenders on the team. They have a lot of guys who are injured on that team. So you can see here, great matchups at point guard for Portland. That's Damian Lillard territory. Great matchups at the power forward and small forward position. Guys like Aminu, guys like Evan Turner, I believe, right? So guys like Evan Turner, Aminu, Really, the whole entire team has a good matchup because this is just a high pace-up game. This is a good spot to target. So in terms of target offense, the key things to look at on this slate, at least, are the fact that Atlanta is pretty bad against every position. And then when you take into account that Vegas right here has Atlanta as a 10.5 point favorite, right? Atlanta's a 10.5 point favorite. Or actually, Portland might be the 10.5 point favorite. Yeah, so Portland is the 10.5 point favorite, which makes a lot of sense when you take into account that this team right here, their target offense, or at least their defense, is very bad, right? And you're going up against an offense that can get it done, top like half of the league in pace, have scorers on the team. So, yeah, this is what the target offense looks like. Again, you guys can screenshot this. Things that I will point out other than just Atlanta being pretty bad. Again, you have Philly at center without Embiid today going up against Jokic. They're already bad in general. Now you're going to get Amir Johnson out there who ranks 55th out of like 72 qualifying centers in defensive efficiency. His block rate is just absolutely terrible. Jokic rarely gets blocked. He should manhandle him. Jokic, his last time out, manhandled Rudy Gobert. Like, that's insane. Rudy Gobert's the number 1 defender in efficiency. Now you're going to face the number 55 defender after you just had a rest from a suspension. You could be sure Jokic's probably going to be bringing it tonight. Other positions are Golden State against the center position. This is something that I should actually put an asterisk by right here. So Golden State says 23rd against the center position, which makes you think Al Horford is a little bit of a better play. Obviously, break down into these numbers a little bit more. Check the block rates, check the minutes on the floor, check who really the defenders are. Because now you have DeMarcus Cousins who's coming back, and he's already ranking in his small amount of time 10th in the league in defensive efficiency. So this number is going to quickly reduce down to potentially single digits by the end of the year because DeMarcus Cousins is that good of a defender. Again, 10th in the league. Al Horford does have a tough matchup, so don't just take this number for whole value. You have to look into it a little bit more. What players were playing, which ones weren't. So that's target offenses. Let's look at our early interest. So again, early interest, I did this at 2 o'clock in the morning after taking into account my early data and things like that. And I'm just kind of going through it today at 7:30 in the morning, right? Trying to get this video out way earlier for you guys than I usually do. If you're still watching right now, you made it about 22 minutes in. Comment down below in the description if you are still watching. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you are still watching and you're not subscribed, bottom right corner, it should be like right here somewhere. Hit that subscribe button, right? I know it might take a long time to just hit it, or it might feel like that. Just one little click for me, please. It helps me a ton. It helps me make this side hustle of mine and helps me try and turn it into a career, into something that I could really make money from, get noticed by more people, YouTube, whatever it might be. Thank you. I appreciate it if you can do that. Let me know if you're still watching and what is your favorite part of these videos, and if you have any advice on how I can make them better for you. If you're still watching to this point, probably means that you're actually really interested in DFS, so I'd appreciate your advice the most. So drop that down below, please. So guards, I think Ben Simmons just makes a ton of sense, right? I mean, you have Embiid, you have probably Butler, you have Wilson, Chandler. All these guys are going to be out. Ben Simmons, if I scroll over here, he has a 26.4% usage rate. It goes up more than 3 points when these guys are off the floor in a decent span of over 200 minutes, right? So Ben Simmons is not a lock on this slate because I think it's going to be tough to get to him price-wise, depending on where else you want to go. But I think he's a great play. Redick at 5,600 is also a guy that I really like, and if I slide back over here, he has a 26.8% usage rate when Embiid, Chandler, and Butler are off the field or off the floor. He gets a bump of 4.6%, bigger than Simmons, right? And it makes sense. There's a lot more points to go around. Redick to score. He can get hot. I like him a lot on this slate. I'm going to butcher this name. Furkan Korkmaz. All right, probably butchered that name. He's $3,300. This is the thing that interested me. 22.8% usage rate when these guys are off the floor, 17.4% usually. So if we go to Furkan here, or Forkin, I really sorry if I'm butchering that. Doubt he's watching. It's interesting, right? It's going to be interesting to see who's in the starting rotation for this team. You're probably going to see Corey Brewer in there. You're probably going to see Muscala in there. You're probably going to see Amir Johnson. That's who I would project to be the starters, but potentially they could be going elsewhere against Denver. So people are going to see his game log and not be impressed at all. But, again, he's deep down in the depth chart. When 3 starters are out, these guys get up a little bit more. When J.J. Redick was out, we saw Furkan get a little bit of run. And a little bit of run meaning only a few weeks ago, right? He got 30 minutes, he scored 21. He got 28 minutes, he scored 21. 24, scored 24. 26, scored 30. So averaging right under, probably like 0.9 points per minute. That's pretty good at $3,300. If we get any word on this guy at all, again, if he's not starting, this is a dart throw, right? But at $3,300, if for some reason this guy draws a start, based on his usage rate bumping up by like 10%, when these guys are off the floor. Really, the only time he's playing is when these guys are off the floor. It's definitely an interesting value play. Again, right now it's just a total punt, but we'll see as the day unfolds if he could actually use him and he could be something of worthwhile for us. Damian Lillard, let me check if this mic's on. I always forget that. Good, we're good to go. Yeah, so Damian Lillard, $8,900. This is really a couple of things, right? His matchup's just incredible against Atlanta, 29th against the point guard position. Trae Young is not a great defender against the point guard. We could say that much. So, if anything is his downside, that's where Trae Young's game has to increase. Damian Lillard just in a stud position here. If we go to Lillard, coming off a game that wasn't one of his best games, but now he has a spot to get right? In terms of Damian Lillard being under 40 points, and I know he barely went under, but just not a good spot for Damian Lillard. Or not a good game his last time out for Damian Lillard. I think he bounces back here. I think at 8,900, he's going to potentially go under owned because a guy like Simmons is only $700 more, and on a slate where Jokic seems like a lock, it's going to be tough to get there. And when a guy like Kyrie Irving's been balling out at 9,300 in the highest pace or the highest total, second highest pace game on the slate, Irving's going to draw a lot of attention. You got guys like Seth Curry. It's going to be interesting to see where Lillard comes in, but I think I'm going to be pretty heavy on the field in terms of my ownership on him. And quickly to get through the rest, we talked about Tyreek Evans, Oladipo out. Same thing with Corey Joseph. I think Joseph for $1,100 cheaper is an interesting play. He should see around 25 minutes, if not more. If Evans starts, he should see the majority of the minutes, probably closer to 30. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Darren Collison, I mean, he's also a point guard out there, right? I know Oladipo was running some of the points, so Collison's a great play, right? With Oladipo out there, Collison should be a shoo-in for about 30 minutes in this game. Not the greatest matchup in terms of going up against Memphis if we look at this quickly. Memphis right here against the point guard position 19. So, I mean, not a great matchup, like something that's in yellow where it's a bottom third, but they're pretty close to that. So I do like a good amount of Darren Collison at only 5,600. There are guys who in the mid to low range are going to produce some value. Again, I write here, slight interest on Kyrie, 9,300, just because of that game environment. He's a guy who can go toe-to-toe with Steph Curry tonight, just be dropping threes, and you have to have him. He's been absolutely on fire. But again, he's 9,300, and there's other ways that I kind of want to go with this slate. That was me mentioning earlier how I'm not getting to a lot of these guys. TJ McConnell at $4,000. Again, 3 starters out. He's a good points per minute guy. We talked about Herder quickly based on his matchup. Same thing with Prince. We talked about Aminu coming in with that dislocated finger. I think he's in a good position. I think also at 4,500, he's very undervalued, right? If he's 6Xs for you, he's getting you 28 points. And this is a guy who can get that often. And if he only 5Xs, he's getting you 22 points, 23 points. I think he has that well capable. I think he's very underpriced. Marcus Morris at $4,800. I think he's a little bit of a dark horse today. If you look at his past like game log, which again we don't want to go by that, but a lot of people of the public are. They're not going to see anything that completely stands out to them. But what I see is this: I see these minutes right here. Minutes equal money. He's averaging over the past 2 weeks well over 25 minutes, probably around 27 minutes per game. I want that tonight for sure, even if he has a little bit of a tougher matchup against a guy like probably Durant in this lineup, or probably Draymond Green, actually. So I still like him at 4,800. Corey Brewer, talked about him. He'll get inserted into the starting lineup. Corey Brewer's not a guy who's going to score points, right? He has like 40 points in the 2 games that he's played so far and started, but he will get at $3,800, give you at least somewhere else to go in your lineup. Muscala we talked about. Center's the position that I'm looking at the most tonight. There's a lot of options to pay up at point guard tonight. There's a lot of value at point guard, especially in Indiana, especially in Philadelphia. So forward, I think there's just everywhere you can go at forward. I think it's mid-range. And then at center, I really do think that paying up for center is a smart move. I think Jokic's just an absolute smash spot, right? No Embiid, we already talked about. And even then, the Sixers are terrible against the center. He's coming off of a day rest, off of a suspension, maybe has a chip on his shoulder. Cousins, I haven't liked Cousins yet all year. But at $6,200, and he's getting increased minutes, played 24 in his last game, should see around 25, if not closer to 27 in this game. I like Cousins at 6,200. They're just kind of letting him do his thing, and at 6,200, he has to get you 30 points, something that he was getting you when he was playing 20 minutes. Like Cousins a lot in this situation. I think Nurkic's going to be a guy who, since he kind of let a lot of people down last game, and at $8,600, you can get a lot more at the point guard position especially. I think he's going to go super under-owned. I think him and Lillard can potentially go under-owned in a game that's the highest total on the slate. So I do like that. And then Amir Johnson at $3,600. Nothing special, but again, if he's a starting center at $3,600, if he's going to play you close to 30 minutes, and even if the game does blow out, he should still see run. $3,600 is decent. Not a great points per minute guy, but again, $3,600, you're stomaching that pretty well. So We're about that 30-minute point or close to it on my camera, about 30 seconds away. This was the breakdown for today's slate. I appreciate it. If you watched the whole video, comment down below, damn it. Let me reach out to you and say thank you because I greatly appreciate your support. You're the reason that I've been growing this channel. So thank you so much. Also in the description, be sure to check out that GoFundMe if that's something that you're interested in donating towards, whether I've helped you win money or just helped you in general, or if you just want to help this guy get a new laptop, right? As a college student, it's tough on my own. But that's about it, guys. Thank you so much. My name's Sal. Best of luck on this slate. I'll be back soon. Peace.